It's John here, and I figured I would do a proper end of season video. And first and foremost, anyone that had Philadelphia, good job, major props for the call. I think this was a very odd, polarizing type Super Bowl where there really wasn't much, I noticed at least, especially based off the wrath of the comments, which I do deserve. Many people in the middle. It was either 100% what I believed, the NFL doesn't care, they're doing the three-peat, or the other side, which was like, it's the most obvious bait and switch of all time. But nonetheless, anyone who called the Eagles, good job. I thought, just like last year, they didn't give a shit. Last year when everyone told me it was a bait and switch, all that stuff, and Mahomes won anyway. But this year they did pull that off. Uh, Unfortunate for me, I did have Worthy. I mentioned Worthy possibly winning MVP. Of course, had they won, I can imagine he's the only guy that would have been considered. He was like 30 to 1. But anyway, interesting game. And to anybody who had Eagles winning a blowout from buzzer to buzzer, really good job. To people who actually had that, I would imagine very small percentage did. I did see a few people comment. Like, I get a lot of comments, but I did see a few comment when I did my last video yesterday or 2 days ago. Something to the effect of Eagles are going to win by double digits, stuff like that. So there were some people who had it. And again, a lot of new people are going to be watching, of course, because of the algorithm. And I'm noticing a lot of people like just are assuming that I would like be backpedaling or making excuses. I've never done that. We've been doing predictions for like 3 Super Bowls now. We've done 3 NBA Finals. I've done baseball, and baseball has been just laughably wrong. Whereas the NFL, we usually at least get the matchup right, or we'll get one of the Super Bowl teams like this year. Basketball, we did really good with the Celtics last year. My preseason pick was Celtics Mavs or Celtics Clippers. I was really liking both those teams, with the Celtics winning. And I think this year Celtics Lakers is going to be a good call. But yeah, I do want to kind of touch a little bit on next year. It'll be interesting because I don't think the one thing I think most of us can agree on is I don't think this changes people's opinion on if it's scripted or not. I don't think people are going to like see the end of this game and just say it's not scripted. If anything, I think more people think it's scripted because they're like, okay, that was the ultimate bait and switch, which was the reason people used against me. So yeah, I wouldn't try and backpedal a pick that I made numerous times. And I guess, because I used to watch some of the breakdown channels, and I do know a lot of the people would, every time they got a pick right, celebrate or whatever. And then when they got it wrong, they'd say, oh, well, it's scripted, that's why. Well, I'm not going to pull that because we know it's scripted, and that's why I'm making the picks I am. I did find something very interesting. So yeah, anyway, to all the people that are rightfully clowning me, you've earned it, and I hope you guys put some money behind that and made some money too. Anyway, yeah, Worthy had a pretty good game. I want to go into something that I found interesting, and I talked about this multiple years. I find it very interesting. There seems to be a parallel with wrestling and football, and it was part of the reason I liked Niners Chiefs last year, because it's a lot to explain, and I have videos going into it. I actually have videos like on a playlist where it's like WWE Super Bowl, something like that. And the reason I liked it was Roman Reigns, who was the tribal chief, was from San Francisco. He's like labeled from Florida now, but no, I think he is from San Francisco. But and the story with wrestling 2 years in a row was Cody and the Bloodline, Cody versus the Bloodline. Now it's interesting, the WWE always seems to follow, or vice versa, the NFL. So I remember when they had the Super Bowl in Tampa, we had WrestleMania in Tampa. When we had the Rams, who won it at home, I believe the next year the Super Bowl was in LA, and even when it's not the same venue. So this was this was last year's WrestleMania in Philly, and it's where Cody won his rematch against Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, which I find again very interesting. The American, and he's the American Nightmare. A lot of people call the Eagles America's team. Used to call Cowboys, but it's interesting because obviously a Philly team. This was in Philly. And then, like, again, the year before, I forget what WrestleMania was. I think it was, let's check it. It might have been Vegas. No, that's next year. 39 was, so yeah, this was during the COVID-19 thing. 19 thing, and this was out in California, or was supposed to be, and I think they wound up doing it the next year. But again, it was basically just following around the Super Bowl, and you'll just guess where WrestleMania is next year. It's in New Orleans, so it's really interesting, in my opinion, the way wrestling seems to follow the NFL and vice versa. But the story is really a close one if you think about it. And I really regret not at least covering this possibility, because I won't lie if I said it didn't cross my mind. It's just my WWE logic really hasn't come through before as much as keeping it simple. But yeah, you had Cody who lost and everyone thought he was going to win. You could say that was the Eagles the first time playing the Chiefs. Although I wouldn't say everyone thought they were going to win. And then he gets back there, gets it done again, wins the Rumble. Who knows? I don't know where the Rumble was. Let's see where the Rumble was. Very curious. Just to see, like, some of these, what's it called? Like, coincidences. So the Rumble was the Rumble's in Florida, so nothing too crazy there. Nothing really comes to mind. If this was like 4 years ago with Brady, that would make sense. But anyway, the WrestleMania ones is really where I feel like they just really follow the Super Bowl, or sometimes the Super Bowl follows it. But yeah, so Cody wins the Rumble again, goes back to back, and obviously Mahomes went to back Super Bowls. And then Cody finishes the story and redeems himself after losing to the Tribal Chief, which is exactly what Jalen Hurts did. So I do find that very interesting. And again, it's just a lot of similarities. So again, next year we're having this year it's in Vegas, and I think a Super Bowl was recently in Vegas, wasn't it? Let's see the last time I was in Vegas. Wasn't it like last year? Okay, so last year the Super Bowl was in Allegiant, and now this year Mania is in Allegiant, and then, which I'm going to, by the way, it's gonna be really fun. Here we go, Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, WrestleMania Vegas, and yeah, it's just really interesting. And then we go back to, like I said, the last year, it wasn't the same venue, but it was the same team. It was in Philly, big Philly crowd. Basically what we got tonight, a big Philly crowd in NOLA. Which again is where next year's Mania is going to be. So I think you can kind of see it. Like, I can't put my finger on it exactly how they go about it, but there's too many parallels. You have so many cities for WrestleMania and the Super Bowl to almost every year, like a year apart or even the same year, to be in the same venue, or it's a team that WrestleMania was in that stadium. I find that very interesting. So you guys can let me know what you think. If anybody else noticed that. To me, it's pretty noticeable. And yeah, here's the whole deal with Cody Rhodes finally winning after losing to Roman Reigns. And there was another thing. I did cover this. Oh, that's weird. 666 days. I'm not even a symbolism gematria guy, but I do remember a few people telling me that the Eagles or something like that. I don't know, 666 something. They were using that number a lot, and I wasn't really paying it much mind, but the biggest reason I look at it is the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns, just like Mahomes, basically was the headline of 3 straight WrestleManias. And he won them all except this final one where he lost to Cody, again in Philly. So I just find that all very interesting. You guys can let me know what you think about that. Again, what I try and do is, if I'm wrong, I try and reassess and look at other possibilities. All we can do is notice patterns, right? There's no point in being going on imright.com and trying to explain why my pick was wrong. It was just wrong. I do want to. I'm not going to go too deep into it because there's a lot of stuff that has to happen. What I will say is for the NFL next year, I don't think many teams make much more sense than the Bills. I think Josh Allen's definitely going to get one in his career, and putting the Chiefs back there makes no sense at all. Right, I mean, I guess you could do it. Brady did the 3 and 4 years thing. I think they're going to simmer down a little bit now. We might even see some kind of rehaul. But, yeah, my early prediction, which again, if things come along, I'll obviously have like a much more detailed pick as we get into next year. But my early prediction is Buffalo. I do like Buffalo for a few different reasons. There's a lot of tie-ins with Buffalo, and I just think Josh Allen's going to get his. I do. I don't know if I don't know why. I feel like Lamar might not get one, just because he's got a lot of awards already. Now, granted, Allen did just win MVP, but yeah, I like Buffalo too. So far, like they're my first early pick that I think makes sense. Kind of get Allen moved up a little bit on the all-time quarterback list. So yeah, I don't think many people expected this kind of result. I think if anything, people would have had, Philly by like 5 points or less, like a 31, even like 20, even like a 7 point, 31-24, something like that, a score game. I don't think people had a route, as it's put here in the article. But again, anyone who did good job, I'm not a very combative person. I'm not going to rain on other people's parades. I think we had a decent year, which again is below my standards. I would say typically we are way over the target. And this year, again, did have the Chiefs going all the way to the Super Bowl, but not exactly the hardest pick in the world. Just to go to the Super Bowl, I think they were like plus 200 to 300, so it wasn't anything crazy. And yeah, the Eagles, I slept on them all year. I just didn't see it. But you look back in retrospect, and especially again using my wrestling logic, what happened in WrestleMania 40, which by the way, a 40-point game here for Philly. Just another thing I noticed. WrestleMania 40, we had Cody with like a stronger alliance. So it wasn't just Cody versus the entire bloodline. He had like friends that he had brought in that helped him. John Cena came out, all these other guys came out. So obviously you add Saquon to the Eagles, and that's kind of the story. Like now they have a legitimate star-studded team. AJ Brown, Smith, all these other guys. And, I could see why they would go that route. Also, obviously, the bait and switch. I can see that is definitely a possibility. And at this point, I can see that's what happened. I think that's the biggest reason they went over. It's just after last year, I'm like, okay, well, they obviously don't give a crap. They teased the bait and switch, and then the Chiefs just won. So, yeah, it wasn't too much there that I would say that is a shocker as far as the reason that they had the Eagles win. But I did have the Chiefs, and like I said, I was off on that one. So all we could do is improve. I think we're going to have a good NBA season, or I should say NBA postseason. We still have the second half of the season. And really not much is going to move me off Boston, Lakers. It would take a lot, just because of the stories that are, again, and for that I am using wrestling logic. It's actually mostly wrestling logic. So maybe had I used wrestling logic here, we would have got this right. I would have went with the Cody story, Jalen Hurts being Cody, kind of. And I went into the NBA. What's interesting is you have the 17-time champs, Lakers, 18-time champs, Celtics. And Lakers are trying to tie the Celtics. Right now, John Cena and Ric Flair are tied with 16 world championships. Cena's going for number 17. So again, it's another case of it being like 1 year behind, right? It's pretty interesting. So they'll be going for 17 in the WWE, whereas the Celtics are at 18, and that's what the Lakers will be going for. And then the other reason I thought Lakers is because you would have a father-son combination win a championship, which Dominic and Rey Mysterio did a few years ago in the NBA or in the WWE. It might have even been the year. It might have been the year that they might have won the championship the year the Lakers did last time. I think it was the Bubble Bowl. I'm not positive. I'll have to check that. But again, I noticed a lot of commonalities with wrestling, the cities, as I went into a few minutes ago, the stories, and then again, teams, players that rep the cities just always seem to be following the NBA, NFL, more so the NFL, or the NFL follows them. So yeah, I wanted to put this out there because I thought it would be appropriate to just do a final end of season video, just my opinions. Again, I never claim to always be right. If that was the case, there's people that, what I used to get from people is, now that most people that watch understand it's scripted. So it's just people that think it's scripted, debating other people that think it's scripted, which is fine. It's no different than debating wrestling. But what I used to get is like, oh yeah, so it can't be scripted, huh? If it was scripted, you would know the results of every game. And to me, that's just ridiculous logic. It's like saying because we know the lottery's rigged, I can call every number, or the WWE or a movie. Just because they're predetermined doesn't make it any easier to call. So, yeah, I never got that argument, but I do get the people that are feeling pretty good right now because they saw this bait and switch, and to them it was obvious, and I know it seemed obvious, but again, to me, both sides kind of seemed obvious. So I am curious what you guys think we're going to get next year in the NFL. Are we going to see the officials kind of take a back seat? Are we going to see a revamp of the system with the officials, and then they can kind of get back to, quote, old school football where it doesn't seem as scripted, or are they just going to run crazy games and with the mindset, well, we quashed all the doubt, right? The Chiefs didn't get their three-peat, so now people don't think it's rigged, and we'll just go back to business as usual. I am curious. I think they're going to start changing how we see these games. And again, a blowout in the Super Bowl is a good start. Because again, you want ratings, you want a close game. In a scripted game, this theoretically wouldn't happen. So I can see why they went this way with it. But yeah, again, to anyone that had this, especially anyone who had Philly, a couple months ago, really good call. I know most didn't. I know most people that were telling me it wasn't going to be the Chiefs were on the Packers. A lot of people were on the Packers. We had a lot of people on the Ravens. We had some on the Eagles, but I think they were a really good dark horse because I would say probably less than 5% of people months ago were telling me it's going to be Philly. But for the people that did good job, especially if you got some money in on them, that's definitely a nice little profit. It was basically a coin flip type deal, but if you got on them a little bit ago, you probably got better than 10-1. So I'm always happy for people that profit. And yeah, again, I would say a below average year. Just some of our divisional picks that I thought we were going to do better. Obviously, I had the Cowboys fiasco where I really thought they were going to make a playoff run. But again, we're not going to nail every single team every single time. As far as the playoff brackets, we did all right. Like I said, typically I would say our hit rate's closer to 60-70% every week. And this year was closer to breaking even and then a good week and a bad week. So I want to see that improve next year. And obviously I want to see that improve going into the NBA. Now again, the NBA is one we're actually doing phenomenal right now. So far as it stands, all 10 teams, and I did one tier list about, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago at this point. It was beginning of the year. And it was just, I did a tier, from basically A to F. But I also, in doing those tiers, went into the 10 teams from each side that I had in the playoff / play-in. In the East, we're still 10 for 10 right now. And the only team that would probably get flipped out would be the Bulls. And I actually have the Bulls at number 10. So we've done a really good job there. In the West, we need a couple things to happen. I need Golden State to flip Sacramento, and they're tied essentially. So I wouldn't say that's that much of a feat. And I had the Spurs getting in as a play-in team. So that one is the only one that's looking like it's not a Vegas favorite to happen. They would have to flip Sacramento. Sacramento is actually a team that I don't have making the playoffs. So right now we're 8 out of 10 on the West and 10 out of 10 on the East if it were to end today, which is obviously phenomenal. And then with the Lakers and Celtics as the two teams that I have. So we'll see what happens there. I look forward to getting back into basketball. We'll have a little more time now to cover it. And last year, basketball wound up blowing up. We wound up doing really good. It was the first time, really since I started the channel, that I would say we had the exact matchup. Yeah, we called the matchup and the winner, in the preseason, essentially. Which isn't easy to do. A lot of people get on me when I, don't hit the Super Bowl matchup or something, or the finals matchup, and it's if it was that easy to do, I would have a lot more than a YouTube channel. I'd be, on TV or something, because it's not easy to do that. So I think we did a good job last year, and I think it's looking good this year too. So hopefully we redeem the NFL picks with the NBA this season. So far we are, and yeah, I'm not ashamed of being duped by the NFL again. They put a lot of thought into these games. I still believe it's scripted. Again, I think more people probably think it's scripted than before, just because the bait and switch kind of confirmed it for them. And yeah, the Chiefs didn't quite get it done. So it'll be interesting what happens with Mahomes. I think this definitely makes it almost impossible to have any argument with him and Brady. Just because, again, the guy needs 4 more rings. And it looks like he might be taking the LeBron route, right? Where maybe he'll get to a lot of Super Bowls. He won a lot of AFC championships. But maybe he's not going to win as many. So they'll say, well, when Brady got there, he won. It was rare that he lost. And even though Jordan never lost. Whereas LeBron, he's lost half the finals he's been to. I think more than that. And Mahomes isn't that bad, but he's 3-2 at this point, which isn't GOAT status. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. I think, at least for now, I don't see any kind of way Mahomes can make his way into the GOAT discussion. And maybe that's what someone did bring that up to me. They said you have to remember how much they love Tom Brady. They don't want Mahomes being compared to Brady. They don't want that GOAT discussion. They brought it up, but they want people knowing Brady's the GOAT. So that's definitely a good take. It wound up being correct. And I think it's going to wind up standing. I don't see Mahomes suddenly rattling off a bunch more rings. I think he's going to retire much younger, too. So, yeah, I think as far as the Chiefs dynasty, I think most of it's behind him. Not saying he won't get another ring, but I think other teams are going to start eating, as they say, whether it be the Bills or a team like that. And yeah, for the NBA, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be very exciting. Their ratings have been down, which is, I'm sure, a big part of the reason of Luka going to the Lakers. And to me, Lakers Celtics would do really good ratings. So I'll be getting into the NBA. We're basically 3/4 of the way through. So the playoffs are not that far away, and I think it'll be a fun NBA ending. And I'm gonna do my wrestling picks too. I always post my WrestleMania predictions, which is funny because a lot of time my WrestleMania predictions aren't even as accurate as the NFL and NBA, just because the point I brought up earlier. Just because something is openly scripted doesn't mean we know the result of every single matchup, right? So yeah, I am curious your guys' opinion of the Super Bowl. Feel free to clown me. I've already, responded and give credit to the couple dozen of people that think I work for the books, which I think you're giving me a little too much credit there. If I was working for the books, with my, I would say, very average to below average comparatively channel size, then that would be interesting. But nah, there's that, and then obviously people just call me a clown for not seeing the obvious Eagles win. And that's fair. When you win, you get bragging rights. So anyone that had the Eagles, I just hope you had money on them, because then at least you got some money too. And you're not just, celebrating a verbal victory, but you're also celebrating a nice little financial victory as well. So yeah, I think it was a very interesting Super Bowl. It definitely wasn't up there as far as entertainment goes, but we got to see the Chiefs get beat down by a team that probably the entire world was on, right? As far as wanting them to win. Which, yeah, just keeps bringing me back to Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. It is an interesting parallel. And then again, when I noticed next year the WrestleMania is going to be in Louisiana, I'm like, this can't be a coincidence. It's like every year. Like the NFL and WWE, again, are in the same city in the Super Bowl, or a team that represents the venue that WWE was at winds up winning the Super Bowl. So I always find that interesting as well. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think, and we'll be jumping right into the NBA, getting some regular season games, slates covered, which I did a lot more of last year. Again, I had more time. I do have, as I put it, a soul-sucking job that just takes a lot of my time away, but I still want to get back to at least a couple times a week covering just the NBA slate, especially, the TNT, what is it, Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever it is. They're usually pretty good, and as the season goes on, they're pretty fun to watch. So yeah, there's not much change there in the NBA as far as who I like. And yeah, my early NFL pick for next year, which obviously this year didn't go too well, but at least we made it to the Super Bowl. I'm really liking Buffalo. I think it might be finally Allen's turn to get over the hump, get a ring, and then I think we're going to get a Buffalo-Kansas City break for a couple years, and then they probably meet back up one last time in the playoffs, in 2 or 3 years or something. Just kind of how I see it going. I don't think we're going to get that many more Mahomes Allen matchups. And if Allen makes it to the Super Bowl next year, I think he's going to do it without playing Mahomes. I could be wrong, but we'll have to see what happens. So yeah, again, congratulations to everybody who called this right, and thanks to everybody who watched the channel, who gave the channel a chance, continues to, and understands I'm a human who is not going to get every single pick right. And there's cases I'm going to have picks that age like milk in a storage unit. Just not always going to be good. Sometimes I'm going to be off by a lot. So sometimes the score, I think, throws it too, where it's like, if this was a really close game, I don't think people would be clowning me as much. It'd be like, okay, yeah, you're wrong. But since they got prison pounded, it's like, oh my God, you were really wrong. And I'm like, well, they still lost. The result's the same, whether it's a 18-point loss or a 1-point loss. So either way, like I said several times, Eagles backers, good job. And I'm from Philly, so it's not like I don't have any skin in the game. It's not like I love the Chiefs. I just thought it was the obvious script, but to the people who saw the bait and switch and were like, nope, it's definitely a bait and switch. It's not like last year. Good call on that. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.